Okay.
So let's talk a little bit more about. You talked about Little Italy and how everybody was kind of like one big family.
We were.
Was it all Italians there?
No, it wasn't all Italians. At one time, we had the Cruzes, and they were nicest family. They lived up there, right there. Why did you come in right by the railroad track?
Okay.
There was them, and then there was. What was that? I can't think of their names now.
Did you talk about the Coeds, right?
Coet, they didn't live up there.
Okay.
Oh, I'm trying to think of their names. And then there was the Harneys.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And
Harneys were what nationality?
no.
So
Then later on in the later years, I mean, there was the Fletchers. And then there was a Naces. We had some Naces up there.
Albert Nace.
Yeah, Albert and Nace, they lived there. And then people lived across by the railroad track. What was their name? The Cruzes lived right there. I can't think of their name right now.
and then there were Italians who lived in Frenchtown, too. I mean,
Yeah, the Cransys lived in Frenchtown. And the Romanos. And the Madonnas. Some of the Madonnas lived in Frenchtown, yeah.
So the neighborhoods all got along.
Yeah, we did. We never had any problems. And then the Tavados behind us, I don't know what nationality they were. Or the Studheights, I don't know what nationality they were.
Or German or...
Yeah.
Now, I know that you and I had talked about when kids, there were a lot of childhood diseases that kids caught. So talk about some of those, because you have...
I had diphtheria. I had diphtheria and I had trench mouth at the same time. And I was the only one, I was the first one in Boulder County to get diphtheria. They had an epidemic that year. And we had that sign on the house, you know how they used to put on the house?
So you were quarantined?
Yeah, we was quarantined. And then if my mother had to have any groceries, they used to have to drop it right at the gate. They could never come any farther. The neighbors was good about going to the store and stuff like that. Mr. Jaco made sure we had enough bread and stuff like that.
So did your dad get to go to work, though?
I was just trying to think.
Or did he have to live outside the house?
No, he was there. I don't know.
What about Uncle Don?
Well, no, he was in quarantine too, I think. Yeah, he was.
But he didn't get it?
No, I was the only one up in the neighborhood that got it.
So how was it treated? What did they do for it?
Well, they didn't have shots or anything like that. All they had to do was... Did they give you sulfa? Was there sulfa then? I don't think so.
They used sulfa a lot in those days.
Yeah, it might have been sulfa.
Do you remember your symptoms when you had that, Betty?
Yeah, they thought I had pneumonia or something, you know, and then I start breaking out. And I got this terrible high fever. I had a terrible high fever. Mostly it was a fever. But, you know, you were sick. You were sick. I can remember that.
At school, did you use the same dipper to drink water? Do you think? Because I remember some.
Yeah, we did.
Diphtheria dippers. Do you think you got?
Yeah, we did that. We did. You know, we did. We never had a. Did we? Did we have a
didn't
fountain?
have a drinking fountain, did you? Or?
No, we didn't have a drinking fountain, but I think we did have a water faucet out by the church.
You don't, but you don't know how you got diphtheria.
I probably got this, you know, from
the dipper, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you had diphtheria, did you have measles,
Yeah.
mumps?
I had them all. Mm-hmm.
And remember mustard plasters?
Oh yeah. The kids even we used a lot of luster plasters.
And the doctor would just come to the house.
Yeah.
You never went to the hospital.
No, I think it was a Dr. Cassidy. He'd come and he'd have to keep mask on his, you know, and everything. But my mother had to boil everything, you know, and she had, you know, I was sick. Then I got trench mouth, and that was awful. God, I don't know how I got that either. I probably picked it up from somebody. Like I say at school, like we had them outside toilets. We had that, you know, you could have picked up anything in them time, you know. So anyway.
So, but you never were in a hospital for anything?
No, just when I got my tonsils out.
Oh yeah, talk about that.
Oh, that was terrible. The old county hospital out there.
Which is on North Broadway?
Yeah. Had to have our tonsils out. Well, nobody had any money. Nobody could So they had one day, everybody went over, they got their tonsils out. So they took us in there, gave us ether. Before you went in, you could see they had a thing full of, they just put the tonsils right in that. They never cleaned them out or nothing. They just dump them in this can or whatever it was.
Blood.
Yeah.
So
and then they put us on some car.
up?
Yeah, it was just lined up.
Like the cattle.
One right after another. The smell.
Did you spend the night?
No.
They sent you home?
They sent you home.
Oh, wow.
No, I take that back. I think we did. They just in the night, because I remember my mother's day. But it was awful. Ether was terrible. Everybody was sick. Nobody had any money. That's what they used to do.
Would they do all the kids in the family so that when they came
Whoever needed their tonsils out was there.
So anybody from town just went over that day?
Everybody, they had us taking tonsils out one day, and I was one of them.
So did you have a lot of strep throat or something? Is that why they took your tonsils out?
Yeah,
Because I know that's why they did mine. I just wondered what would make them take the tonsils out back then.
They didn't take adenoids out like they do now. Like she had to have her adenoids out. They didn't do that then.
You ever went to the dentist?
No. No.
So now if somebody really got sick and needed to be taken to the hospital, did you just have to take him, or was there an ambulance?
We never had he had an ambulance, but it wouldn't run half the time, Henny. But they used to have children's hospital then too. Mm-hmm. People could, things got bad, they take you to, like Uncle Jimmy had it. You could take you to children's hospital, but that was it. But I never remember anybody going to the hospital, to tell you the truth.
Uncle Jimmy is my dad's younger brother, Jim Marino, who had part of a lung removed.
Yeah,
And my dad did spend, 3 or 4 months in the Boulder Hospital, because he had an appendix that burst.
Mm-hmm.
So he did.
He's very lucky that he.
Yeah, lucky he's alive.
Yeah. So I guess they did go to the hospital.
But as far as hospital, I think they used community hospital was the only thing they had outside the old county hospital.
What about? Well, they did have the Boulder Memorial, because
they would
send
they had that's right. They did have. We used to call it the sanitarium.
Sanitarium.
And
do you remember anything about tuberculosis at that time? Because that was kind of a prevalent thing.
Well, they had them little houses up there, them little cottages. A lot of people lived in them cottages.
Anybody from Louisville have it that you knew?
No, I don't think so. A lot of people lived in them little cottages. They were cute little places up there at the sanitarium. I had all my 3 kids at the sanitarium.
Oh.
Yeah,
so you had children in the hospital?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay, all 3.
Was Uncle Donald born in Little Italy, or was he born over here? No, he said he was born in Louisville.
No, they were born in our house in he was born in Louisville, but I was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Betty, you mentioned Doc Cassidy. Do you want to tell any stories about him or any remembrances of that man?
The way I remember Dr. Cassidy, my husband's granddad was a big. His dad used to the union with the miners, coal miners. What was he, Diane?
His grandfather was William Green. His wife was Annie.
Johnny.
His brother was John.
Yeah.
No, he was John.
Yeah.
His brother was William, so he was John Green. He came over here as a coal miner, but then they eventually had a non-company store.
Yeah.
And then he spent most of his life working on behalf of coal miners
Yeah.
for safety, medical care. So he helped bring.
So anyway, he was down. Happened to be in Denver or something one time or another, and how he come across this, but there was Dr. Cassidy living in a place there downtown Denver somewhere. And he brought her from wherever they were because she had TB and she had to come to Colorado. He said they brought her here on a stretcher. She was so sick.
His wife.
Yeah,
Dr.
Cassidy's wife. Well, somehow or another, Ernie's granddad found out about Dr. Cassidy, and they needed a mind doctor. So he went and talked to him. He talked him into coming to Louisville, and he was the mind doctor, Dr. Cassidy was. And you know where they lived? They lived right there on Lincoln Street. Right across, who would we live? Where Wasatch used to live, there was a house there on.
Up by the ditch.
Yeah,
He lives up by the ditch by the school.
Right there, he lived in that house. He had, and that's how he got started. Ernie's granddad brought him to Louisville as a mind doctor.
Did you say his wife What'd she have?
She had some kind of a lung problem or disease, and she had to get to Colorado to this client. She probably did.
I'm thinking that.
And anyway, they brought her here, and that's how come they came to Colorado. And I don't think he was practicing in Denver or what it was, but anyway, he found out about him, and he talked him into coming out here, and he was the mind doctor.
So it was my dad's grandfather that brought Dr. Cassidy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a very good story. We need to really make sure.
Yeah, and my dad's grandfather actually he really did a lot on behalf of miners.
He did.
And safety and health. I mean, he was pretty well known in the state, but he mainly worked with the miners and companies in Boulder County.
And this was your dad's father?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, my dad's grandfather was John Dean.
Yeah.
So, and they came from England.
Uh-huh.
And then my grandmother, Ellen, who was called Nellie, she and her sister Edith were both born in England. So I think Grandma Nellie came over when she was about 4.
Yeah.
And so it was here. But
So he was a very beloved doctor in town.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
He was. But he was down in he lived in that house for quite a while. And I don't think they ever lived anywhere else except that house they finally bought up there where his office was.
I just have to throw this in because I think it's cute. But the dentist over here was Dr. Hurt, which I always thought was great.
Yeah.
The dentist.
Dr. Hurt. He was my dentist.
Dr. Hurt, yeah, he was.
I always thought that was just.
That was Dixie Colachi's dad.
Oh, was that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dixie.
Yeah. That was Dixie's dad. Uh-huh.
So now you had told me that not everybody in town liked the Catholics.
They didn't. We went to Catholic school. He was called the Cat Lickers, and they were the pup lickers. Maybe I shouldn't even put this on tape.
No, I think this is.
We've heard this. We've heard about the cat lickers and the pud lickers.
I think you should talk. You don't need to mention any names, but you can talk about how you were treated.
See, they had rainbow girls.
Right.
Well, anyway, they just used to prod us all the time and throw it up to us all the time. You can't belong to the rainbow girl because you're a Catholic. You're a Catholic. Catholics don't belong to rainbow girls. So you can't come to nothing. Well, what was going to... I mean, at the time, what are you going to do?
It was hurtful, I'm sure.
Well, for children, it's.
It was hard,
Why,
You can't belong. You don't have nothing like we do. You can't dress like we do. We don't have this, and you don't have this, and you don't have that. You don't get to go to they just kept rubbing it all the time because we were Catholics.
Now, you did have something, though, that was a big deal in Catholic school about the maid.
About the what?
In May, did you have a maid crowning? That was.
Oh, yeah, our maid crowning was that was something special for us, every maid crowning.
And what was that?
Well, we'd all get dressed in formals. The girls would get in formals, and nobody could buy any flowers, so everybody had to pick up flowers. And then we pick out one girl to crown the May Queen.
Which was the Virgin Mary.
Yeah, the Virgin Mary. Mm-hmm.
Did you have a maypole?
No.
No, that was.
But you just there was quite a big ceremony.
It was.
Dressed up for that, right?
It was. It was a nice thing. It was pretty. Yeah. And they sang all these beautiful hymns, which they don't do anymore. I wish they did, but they don't do anymore.
Did the Catholics, I don't remember, but in a lot of Catholic communities, they used to carry the statue around town on a certain holiday.
That was St. Rocco down at Mount Carmel,
Yeah.
North there, yeah.
So Louisville never did anything like that.
No, we didn't do nothing like that, but that was St. Rocco down at Mount Carmel.
Okay.
Betty, when you guys had recess and the public school kids came out, and were the Catholic kids have recess at the same time, and was there friction there?
Well, though because they was on one end. We weren't that close together. We was here, and they was down on the next street,
Okay.
But other than that, but we had baseball and stuff. But I can remember, even the boys. They used to poke fun at the boys. They couldn't join I don't know what they had, Demolay or something.
Yes.
They couldn't join the Demolays because they was Catholics.
Did you wear uniforms?
For a while, we had uniforms, and it was a good thing at the time because nobody could afford clothes. So we had uniforms. I wish I remember what they were like. I think they were blue skirts and white blouses, to tell you the truth.
And white socks.
Yeah, and white socks.
This is always fascinating too. But you said you only took one bath a week? How did you do your hair and?
You had to wash them in a dishpan. You washed them in a dishpan, and you had a dishpan to rinse it. That's what we did.
I remember Grandma and Aunt Rosie putting pin curls in each other's hair.
Yeah, they used to.
How did you put pin curls in?
I didn't have to. Thank God. I wouldn't look at it today, but I had real tight curly hair when I never had any hair till I was 3 years old. When it came on, it was curly, but I had real tight blonde curls, and I mean it was curly. And I don't know. And then after I got married and I had that hysterectomy, they say they didn't know how to do it, but it just went flat. Now I got to get perms. I never ever thought I'd get a perm, but it was tight curls, really blonde curls.
Well, I'm thinking about it too, since we were talking about the Catholic Church and that. Talk about like funerals in town, and did people still have the wakes? And
Yes,
like
they
that?
did.
So what was that like?
I remember when Ding Biela died. That was Uncle Frank's brother. They lived in that house in Little Italy on the corner there. They had this wake. They brought him in, set him up in the living room, put them candles on either side of it, had him open for 4 days. Even had the rosary, and then they had to haul him out to church for the rosary. Then they had to haul him back again. So then they had to haul him back again to church for the funeral. Yeah, they had these wakes. I mean, but yeah, Italians, they used to sit by that, cry and carry on all the time.
Were they all dressed in black?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you didn't dare. Years ago, I mean, you were in mourning for a year. You had to wear black, and you wasn't supposed to listen to the radio. You wasn't supposed to do anything like that.
They wear the black armbands too, the men?
Yeah, they did.
Now, I know Dad told me here that when somebody died in Lafayette, they had the service, but then they would always drive them by their house.
They did.
Before they went to the cemetery. Did they do that in Louisville too?
I don't know if they did in Louisville, but I know they always did it in Denver. Yeah, they did.
You talked about in Lafayette they did it. They always drove you by your house.
Yeah, I guess they did. That was in.
Yeah.
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 Now was the
And they always hung I don't know, Henning had a wreath. And he always hung, when somebody died, he hung that wreath on the door to know that somebody died.
They were in mourning.
Yeah,
Would they have the wake in the actual room where the body was?
Yeah.
Or would that be in another room?
Yeah.
So like the living room.
Somebody had to sit
Oh yeah, you couldn't leave them. You had to be there.
around the clock.
Oh yeah, around the clock.
Somebody had to be around the clock.
I once heard that at Henning Mortuary there was a red neon light around that clock, and when somebody had died, that they would turn on that red light. You know, it was just a light around the clock that's still there at the mortuary.
I don't remember that.
I remember the neon light, but I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Certain time.
I never heard about that. Did you ever?
There. I always thought it was always there.
I just.
All right.
And where were people? Where were they buried? The Louisville
Well,
Cemetery?
I'll tell you. Like I say, nobody wanted to go out to Louisville Cemetery. I mean, it was a disgrace. Nobody wanted to be buried out there. It was awful. George Ellis and they used to try to keep. But like
George Ellis kept up the cemetery because
his lodge or whatever, where they try to do it there. But every time I go to Green Mountain and I see all these names, I was up there one day and Eugene Caranci was there. And I said, you know, Eugene, look at all these people from Louisville. I said, if we'd have had a decent cemetery in Louisville, they'd all been in Louisville. But they didn't have nowhere to go. Either there or South Boulder. And South Boulder wasn't much better at the time. It was full of weeds and snakes and everything.
In Lafayette.
South Boulder, where South Boulder Catholic Church is on.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to be very bad there.
It was.
Now it's beautiful. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
You're talking about St. Walburgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I see, all right.
But they didn't have a decent cemetery. Maybe some people were there, but it was awful. I mean, it was just, there was no water out there, and you couldn't keep it up, and there was weeds. It was terrible.
Now, why'd they call South Boulder Road Henning Boulevard?
Well, we used to always go, he always had to go there to South Boulder Cemetery or Green Mountain, so they used to call it Henning's Boulevard.
He was picking them up or taking them out?
He was taking them out. We used to call it Henning Boulevard, and every time I go by there, well, Henning's Boulevard. It was all dirt road, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
He was practically going to Green Mountain or South Boulder, or
or
Yeah.
going to one of the hospitals to
Yeah.
get somebody,
Yeah.
you know, that had passed.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. So, the Depression, I mean, everybody was poor, but you said they were all in the same boat. Talk a little bit, now you started high school before World War II, or?
No, I was in high school. It was December 1941. I was a freshman in high school at World War II.
Had you moved to the house on Lincoln yet?
Yeah, we'd already moved.
So you moved to 829 Lincoln Avenue.
No, we lived on
You moved.
we lived on Lincoln Avenue for a while. Then we moved down there, but we didn't move down in 829 Lincoln until I was a sophomore in high school.
Because you lived first up where.
Little Rosiette.
So they lived in, it's like the 1100 block of Lincoln.
Yeah.
And then later, and the house is still owned by, it was your uncle,
Yeah,
Fred Beranek and
yeah.
Rosie, then moved in the house.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I was a
So-
sophomore in high school when the war broke out.
Yeah.
so what was that like? Tell us kind of.
Well, anyway, the day before, of course you didn't have TV, but there was a thing on the radio about somebody, some ship, some lumber ship or something was bombed, sunk or something, you know, and it said something wrong. But anyway, that next day, I don't know, it was on, was it on Sunday? Yeah, it was on a Sunday. And I was walking home from church, and I don't know how another, but old man Smith's store was there, and I don't know who was there. And there was somebody, and this lady, I don't know who she was. She was crying. I don't know who they, and she was, you know, I think she says we're going to be in war. And I said, what do you mean we're going to be in war? She said they just bombed Pearl Harbor. I said, well, where's Pearl Harbor? I didn't know where Pearl Harbor was. So anyway, when I got home, that's when I found out about it. But anyway, the next day at school, we went to school. We never had loudspeakers or anything like that. We had this great big old radio that they set up on the stage, and they turned it up as loud as they
So
could.
you were in the old school auditorium.
The old school, the high school auditorium. So we all had to go to the auditorium, and I don't know I can't think of who he was at the time.
Your principal?
Was it Barbera? But anyway, so they had so he got up and
What was his name?
Sam Barbero.
I think it was Barbero. I think it was him. Now I'm not sure. No,
I don't know who they had before him, but
But you know, I remember going up on the stage and Mr. Fabrizio, the math teacher, what was his name? We used to call him Fab.
I just know that there was a Mr. Fabrizio.
Well, he used to be the math. He was up there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And he commenced to tell us what was happening. That there was, you know, what had, and then they had that, then had President Roosevelt come on. So everybody was sitting there crying. So they said, now you could all go home. We never had school the next day either. We never had school the next day. But it was sad.
Did they?
But I mean, it was just, you know.
So then what changed as far as, what changed for life in the town? I mean, what did the town have to do?
Well, everybody knew that these kids started enlisting, you know, and then a lot of them start work. The mines were still working then, you know. They went to mine. And then I don't know when Remington Arms started up.
In Denver?
But a lot of people went to work at Remington Arms. Matter of fact, I worked at Remington Arms one summer when I was in high school.
Did Grandma Ella work there?
Yeah,
too?
she worked there.
So, is that with the blue bus?
Oh, that blue bus,
Talk
yeah.
about the blue bus.
We had this bus. They were old buses, I'm telling you. And that, you know, you go Arvada on Wadsworth, there's that hill. That bus would barely make it up the hill. Then we'd have to get out and walk so the bus could get up at the hill. And then we'd get up there and things would be boiling over. There was a ditch there. We'd have to go get the water to bring it to put in the bus so we could get to Remington, I'll tell you.
And were these, on the bus, were these like all women or men too? from
Almost
Louisville?
all women. Most of them worked at the cafeteria, and they had three shifts, you know.
Uh-huh.
But we worked the night shift in the cafeteria there.
So you must have seen a lot of the town's men go off to war.
I did. It was, you know, I'll tell you, it was sad. You couldn't go anywhere that wasn't thinking about it. And the saddest thing, I mean, about World War II, right next to us, carpenters. There was Frankie Carpenter, Alfred Dewey, Bob Morrison, Frank Lipinski, and I can't. The 5 boys, they were standing there waiting. This van was coming to pick up these kids because they joined the Marines, and they were coming to pick them up. Out of them 5 kids, 3 of them didn't come back. Alfred Dewey, Lipinski, and Morrison, they didn't come back. And I thought to myself,
Those were all from your neighborhood.
And I looked up there and I seen that van go, and I hope them kids come back. Well,
3 of them didn't.
it was that sad.
Now, you said that by the time you graduated, you didn't have any boys left in your class.
Let's see, there was 5 boys in my class that was in the service when I graduated, and they got their diplomas that night. I can't remember their name. There was 5 of them was in the service when we graduated.
One was DiGianardo.
Yeah,
right?
and then there was.
So did they just, as soon as they turned 18, they went in the military?
Yeah, some of them lied and went. Like Bobby McHugh, I think he lied and got service. That's how Keema got in the service. He lied about his age.
Do you remember of the 3 boys that did not come home? Did they bring their bodies back?
They did. They brought Alfred Dewey back. Remember Bill Dewey that just died? That was his brother.
Right. Okay.
And he was in the Marines, and he was killed on Tarawa. And every year at that, he was such a good kid, I'm telling you. But I don't think Alfred even finished school. I think he just went right into the service, and they went in the Marines.
And who were the 3 again that passed?
Lipinski, Morrison. I think it was a Morrison. I know it was a Lipinski. I'd have to check that out to make sure, though.
We've talked a lot about that with the service record too, and
Did you attend one of the funerals?
Yeah, I did Alfred Dewey's funeral, and then there was, who else did they bring home? Let's see.
Because we had talked about, for such small towns like Lafayette, for its size, if you compared it to every other city in the country, they lost more boys per population than anywhere.
Yeah, they did.
So between the 2 towns, I mean, there was
quite a few.
Could you compare or think about the difference between living during the Depression and then the war years? Was that a distinct difference, or was it about the same?
No, because during the war years, we could get things, He was rationed. During the Depression, I mean, you had money, you could get it, but you had what you could get. You didn't have like coupon, like we had these tickets and stuff. To get that, we was rationed. That's what it was. But they didn't have that during the Depression. They didn't have any money to give anybody.
Did you have to do blackouts and things?
Yeah, we did.
That's what I was going to ask about. Air raids.
Yeah, we had blackouts. My dad used to be we had to put curtains on our windows and make sure the blinds would. Most of them went and bought them ugly green curtains, or shades. Yeah, we had blackouts.
And what did Grandpa Pete have to do?
Well, they'd have to go out, and they had this hat, and they'd have to walk around the neighborhood.
So it was like a civil defense.
Yeah, a civil defense thing. Yeah.
Now,
they took turns, up in the neighborhood.
You told me you remember trains coming through too.
Oh yeah. See, where we lived, that train used to go through, and there used to be troop trains going through, and at night there'd be a lot of trains with like equipment, But there was right behind the Legion Hall. There was like a little hill there, and
the Legion Hall is where the karate place.
Yeah,
That was the old Legion Hall.
And if you happened to be there when a troop train come through, we'd stand on that hill and wave to them kids, and they'd be so happy to us, I've seen a lot of troop trains go through Louisville.
Now you were part of a.
We called it civil defense.
Yeah, and you had uniforms.
We had uniforms.
And what did you do?
Well, we learned how to march around and
What was your goal? I mean, as a civil defense person, if there was something happened, did you have to do something for the town? Or?
Yeah, we were supposed to. To tell you the truth, I don't really know what we were supposed to do. I really don't know what we were supposed to do. All I know is Bun Graves had it, and I can remember marching around at the old high school is now. And then at Del Pitts used to be our, what do you call it? Yeah, yeah. We had uniforms. Mm-hmm.
So, so you worked you did some work, and Grandma Ella worked all the time down
She
there?
worked at Remington Arms. She was a cook down
With
there.
a
She
lot
was
of the
cook.
women from
Oh, a lot of them worked down there. A lot of people worked down there.
Yeah.
We used to catch the bus. It was a night shift, and then they'd come home at night. They'd drop us off at the old Legion Hall, and we'd have to walk home.
So this was after you graduated? Or you
No,
were
this was
still in
I was
school?
in high school.
So you'd go to school and then go down and work the
Well,
night
no,
shift?
I only worked in the summertime down at Remington.
Okay.
I only worked in the summertime.
Now, didn't you say you also made bombs at one point?
I graduated. The next day, me and Maxine Shalano went to work. We had a job at the Arsenal,
Rocky Mountain Arsenal?
Rocky Mountain. And we went to work the next day on the night shift, we worked 350-pound incendiaries. But that time they were going to Japan. But I'm
Because you graduated in 1945.
Yeah, so I'm thankful to this day it only lasted 3 months because we worked from June, July, and then the war ended in August. So thank God we only had to work 3 months there.
Now,
But I filled these bombs. We called it goop. There was 300-pound incendiaries and these bombs, and so I worked on that.
Was it dangerous work?
Well, not where I was too much. I mean, if this stuff would have caught on fire, it would have been. But I mean, some of it was dangerous out there. I'll tell you.
so talk about, because you still had dances and other activities, right?
Well, when we were going to school, I mean, the Legion had that jitney in Longmont every Friday night, and that was the thing. Everybody went to the jitney in Longmont every Friday night.
So everybody from all over came?
Oh, yeah, and then after that, they'd get done, then they had what they called the hayseeds on Friday. And it was up in a building up there on Main Street in Longmont, up in a building somewhere. They called it the hayseeds.
How'd you get there?
Well, you'd get over there, and, sometimes we used to even ride the train over there. Had never known how we was going to get home. We'd catch the train in Louisville because it went to Longmont, and we'd get over there, and then we'd walk all the way up to the Roosevelt Park,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just had to depend on somebody from Louisville or Lafayette that we knew to bring us home.
What does that word jitney mean? Is
I don't know, what does jitney mean, Diane? You shouldn't. It means dance.
I was just like a jitney was I don't know why they called it that because, I don't know.
Just meant
I don't
dance
know,
or something.
yeah.
Because I know that's where my mom met my dad, was at the jitney and mom.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So what was, name some of the songs from the Second World War that just kind of,
You have
Caught
some
on.
favorites, I know you
Yeah.
do.
Oh, God, I got to give my favorite, Sentimental Journey. That's my song. That is my song.
I love that song too.
And let's see. Oh God, there were so many of them. I'd have to stop and
I know
think.
every time you hear "I'll be seeing you."
I'll be seeing you. That was our class song.
Now you said you also worked during, when you were in high school when you had to work down at the Twin Light.
Yeah, my Aunt Frances and Uncle Paul owned the Twin Light.
So Aunt Frances was a Beranek and she
Yeah,
married
that-
Paul Domenico,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and they owned the Twin Light, which is where Hank's model train is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you have to do there?
Well, we used to work down there. We'd have to scrub the booze. She'd have always doing something down there, or working in the kitchen doing dishes. We always worked something at the Twin Light.
'Cause I heard that was quite the place.
It was.
That was the popular place.
That was. Mm.
What happened down there? Any incidences that were exciting?
Oh, they did have some, but they had their fights and stuff down there too. A lot of
Labor Day, the Twin Light just really jumped.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
all
that-
the bars.
That was a big thing.
jumped on
Oh,
Labor
years
Day.
ago, Labor Day used to be a big thing in Louisville for all the bars and everything. It was.
Do you remember the parades?
Oh yeah, the parade.
So-
We all had floats. Then everybody had a float in the parade in there.
And did the miners march?
Yeah, he sure did.
All the different mines would?
Hmm. He sure did.
So was it just a one-day thing? Or
Yeah.
Did you remember?
We used to call it the Fall Festival. I think it used to. We used to always had a carnival or someplace. Always had a carnival.
I think it was about 3 days.
Yeah, it
Started
was.
on Friday night.
Yeah, and the Legion always had bingo. And then somebody always had a hamburger stand. I think the Ladies
The
Auxiliary.
Ladies Auxiliary, I remember.
The
they
Legion
do it.
Auxiliary always had a hamburger stand,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Betty, do you remember when the war actually ended and the announcement was made? Do you remember that day? Or that
Matter of
moment?
fact, it
You
was the
need
day
to-
before yesterday. It was in August, so the 28th or something. Because, see, I just love that radio station, KEZW. He's such a patriotic. Well, that day he played all the songs from World War II and talked about the war and signing, And I think it was August the 27th, and I'm not sure, but I think it was August the 27th.
You need to tell them about though what happened around D-Day.
Well, D-Day, everybody knew it was coming. And so when it happened, all the siren blew and the church bells start ringing and everything. And that was about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And everybody just got up and went to church. When they was in their night gown, their high school. We all went to church, and Father Benedict was there. And we said the rosary and said a lot of prayers, but that was about 3
So
o'clock.
all the churches in town?
They all did. Every church in town had a service. They was going to have a service with D-Day. They did.
So you just all got up in the middle of the night and went?
Yeah. And then that they had a sign down there where Luigi's is now.
Mm-hmm.
It had a sign with all the boys' names on it. And I was one of them that helped paint their names, sign their names.
We don't know what happened to that.
I wondered about that sign.
He seems to know.
Yeah, we all painted these names. The boys that was in the service.
Tell us about your prom though. Your proms.
Oh, our prom, it was during the war. And we all had corsages made out of, stamps.
Out of what?
Were they ration stamps or war
No,
bonds?
you could buy a bond. You could buy a war bond with them. They were
Oh,
war
they were
bond
made
stamps.
out.
Yeah,
Okay.
they made them like that. Of course, at that time you had your prom at the hall, the school. You didn't go anywhere.
So you were in the gym?
We was in the gym. One year the Methodist Church would have the dinner, and the next year the Catholic dinner. They used to take turns having our banquets.
And did you go to the church and eat? Were your banquets like at the church or were they at school?
They had to be at school, I think. Yeah, or was it at church? I know we went to the Methodist Church for one banquet.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to be in the Catholic Church we had it, yeah.
So they would just alternate?
Yeah, they all used to alternate. Mm-hmm.
So where'd you get the money to buy formals? Or did you make them?
People borrowed them, or did everybody, if you could afford it, what you did, but other than that, you had to borrow them.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Who'd you go to the proms with?
Well, really, there wasn't any, during the war, there wasn't probably too many to go to prom with,
There were no boys left. Huh?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Now, you used to talk about, though, the parents went to the prom, too, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, anybody went to the prom, sit up on the balcony and watched everything. Yeah,
Did they do that when you were?
yeah, anybody could go watch it,
So,
decorate the gym.
Betty, when you'd had the proms, I know when I was in school, the juniors put the proms on for the seniors, and the prom was always a big secret. And you had a theme,
Yeah.
and nobody could go in the gym during this time except the juniors and the sponsors. Is that how? And it was decorated to the hilt.
Yeah, well, no, but like I say,
This was during the war, so
we-
you probably didn't have any money.
we didn't have any money. We just decorated the hall. Of course, it was all red and white and blue, and that. But other than that, no, the parents could go to the prom. Matter of fact, I don't know what. I was up in the balcony. That was the end of the war. It was a basketball game. And they came in and they said, Betty, you got to go home. And I said, well, why do you have to go home? You got to go see your grandmother because we just got word that your uncle was missing in action. That was Uncle Johnny.
So John Ross, yeah, he was taken prisoner at Bastogne.
Yeah, he was at Bastogne.
Right.
Did he come home?
Yeah, thank God he came home. But he was in from May, and he was liberated in May.
Yeah. And her Uncle Joe Ross, my grandfather's brother, actually was in World War I.
Yeah,
But Grandpa
yeah.
Pete Ross wasn't. He was in the mine. So I have to ask, too, about the rivalry between Lafayette and
Oh,
Louisville.
those two.
Because you talked about some pretty scary
There
football
was. It was terrible, that rivalry years ago between them two towns when it comes to football season or something. I mean, it was awful. I remember one night up here, and they got into a fight, and poor old Father Benedict tried to stop it, and they knocked him down. The priest, they knocked him down.
Who did that?
Just the people fighting.
There were people who was fighting.
Well, it wasn't just the football team. The whole town.
The whole town was like that.
Parents
Even
were
the
worse.
adults?
Oh yeah,
adults were
and I
worse
got to
than the
admit,
kids.
my husband, he was, you know, he was a bobcat and I was a pirate. And come football season, I mean, I used to just hate football
It
season.
was ugly, yeah.
It was awful. Oh dear.
Was there conflict in your home because of that?
Oh yes, there was.
Football season.
Did you keep your mouth shut?
Well, I didn't see, but he didn't. It was
Yeah,
it was bad.
It was bad.
It was
But it
bad.
was just the whole town was, the
Yeah.
two towns were that way.
Hmm.
And it got so bad at one point where they wouldn't let us play in the same league anymore.
No.
Right.
Got so-
Really?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who usually won the games? Who was better? Was it kind of equal?
It was kind of equal.
All the Pirates always won.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But you know, it
No,
didn't seem as bad for basketball or wrestling.
Just
or
football. Just football. It was terrible.
Did you used to have bonfires and things in those days for homecoming? Or
Yeah, we did.
did?
Uh-huh. We did that.
So, I know, we're talking more about the town too. Louisville, there's a rumor that there was some connection with the Italian Mafia in Denver. Do you ever remember any of that?
Oh, I know it was something to do with it, but I can remember, and I don't know how true this is. But somebody from Louisville was out there at the old Monarch mine looking for bricks, and when he got out there, he found his body. And they said it was, you know, it was somebody, it belonged to the mafia. And
Somebody from Denver?
they threw him out there.
Uh-huh.
But I was just a kid, and I could still see them big old black cars coming into Louisville, right in front of the old pool hall there. Used to be the pool hall.
Who owned
Bug
the pool
Dust?
hall?
Huh?
Was it Bug Dust Pool Hall?
No, I don't
Was it
think.
Bug
No,
Dust?
I think it was Bonnie LaSalle or somebody like had that. Yeah, I can remember that big old cars coming into Louisville,
Yeah.
and these
Bonnie-
guys getting out in these black suits. I mean, they dressed.
Did Boney own it before Bug Dust, or did they own
Yeah,
it together? Or
No, Bonnie owned it before that, I'm
Bug Dust,
sure.
okay,
And they would come up here to play cards? Or?
Yeah.
So, what are, everybody in Louisville has a nickname, and there are just a lot of characters.
Oh, I found out this the other day.
So, who stands out in your mind, the kind of people you remember the most?
God, I'd have to stop and think. There was so many of us over there, you know. Well,
What about Mariucci?
oh, I can still see Mariucci in her old long dresses.
Oh, Mariucci was a woman.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Mariucci.
I know that, yeah.
Yeah.
And
She lived right-
whose mother was she? Who?
You know who she was related to? Remember Jean Tavoni and Virginia Tavoni?
Yes.
Mariucci was Jean Tavoni's aunt.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
Didn't she live right next to the Tomeo house, just north of the Tomeo house in that little
Did
Victorian
she live on
home?
Main Street?
Mariucci lives where Jan and Diane cleans her. What's her name?
Oh, she lived on Lafarge.
Oh,
Antonucci's.
yeah, that was her house. Mariucci, that was her house there.
Antonucci,
Yeah,
Oh, that was their house.
yeah, that was her house. Uh-huh.
Was that Janucci?
Mariucci, we used to call her.
I forget their last name.
Describe her, because she was.
She was little old, and she always had these long flannel. They all wore flannel long dresses, you know. And she always had a bandana on her head. And I used to see her walking around that yard. Then she used to come to church.
Were the kids afraid of her?
No. And I think she must have lived there by herself, to tell you the truth. I don't ever remember anybody living with Mariucci.
Huh.
I wonder why she stands out as one of our town characters. I guess because of the way she dressed or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Everybody just knew her.
Everybody knew her. Uh-huh.
Because I know you always talked about Rindaniji this, Rindaniji
Yeah,
that.
yeah, he was a cop for years.
Was he the cop and then the magistrate, or he was a cop when you were?
Was he the judge too?
He was a judge, because I got to go back to when we were being a cat. Well, when Ernie and I decided to get married, we went to the father, and he wanted to know who was going to have for best man and that. And Ernie said, well, I want to have my brother, and I had my cousin. He said, well, you can't have your brother because he's not Catholic. Well, boy, that didn't sit too good with me or Ernie either. So I come home and I was crying and what's the matter? I'm getting married on the 18th of December. Ring Deniji has to marry me because he couldn't marry people. He was marrying people.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, she got that straightened out in no time too. Ernie's brother was our best man.
Yeah, because what did she have to do
We had to pay $15 to get, you
to
know.
the Catholic Church?
Yeah, you can
That's
just about pay whatever to get what you need to have done.
Oh yeah,
I
because
know.
I thought Ring Deniji. What was his real name?
I don't know.
Because I just thought it was
I think-
Ring Deniji.
I don't know.
I think it was, and I don't know for sure, but I think it was it John?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Might have been.
But
We'll
he
have to-
also, during
I'll
World
have
War
to
II,
ask Maria.
you said that he was always the one that
Yeah, he had.
he went to the houses.
Yeah,
to
he was
tell-
the one. He was the one that went to Grandma and Grandpa's that night and was there. Of course, we had fun, but anyway.
Is that because
But he had to do that more than once in Louisville.
What would he do?
When they got word about one of the boys was killed or something happened, he
He was the one.
yeah.
I see.
Is that because he'd get the telegraphs first, or?
I don't know if he got, but he always knew, you know, and he was there.
Do you remember Joe D'Amato? Joe's
Joe the Wop.
Joe the Wop. What do you know about him?
Oh, I know he had the grocery store and he married Rosie Madonna. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Tell about Zeus. I think that's
Zeus was he lived down there. He lived down there by where she lives. He lived at that house right there on 42. There's that 2-story house there. He lived in that house
Oh,
there,
right next to the
right next to the ball field.
So was his real name Jesus?
His name was Jesus,
Yeah.
and they called him Jesus. But he, you know, he used to clean the, like, Aunt Frances used to have him come in and sweep out there. But what's his name? Stevens's and what was the name? Beer joint there was his name. Gillette. They were good to him. They took good care of him.
Well, he kind of swept.
Yeah, he did. He used to
Clean
sweep
for
the
him.
floor and that. And but like I say, but he used to go around picking up butts all the time. But somebody'd always give him a cigarette or something. I don't know. But he was sad. But he wouldn't hurt nobody. I mean, but like I say, if anybody would have ever harmed that had that whole city of Louisville after him. Because Zeus was Zeus. And I remember when they had him in this home in Longmont. I happened to go to Longmont one day, and he was at a nursing home there right on the main highway in Longmont, and that's where he was. And I went by there, and I said to him, "Oh my gosh, there's Zeus." You know who's Zeus? And I said, "You know, if anything," I said, I'd love to say hello to him, but he wouldn't have known me.
So he died an old man then?
He died at a nursing home in Longmont.
Well,
But he was well taken care of. Now, what family he had, I don't know what family he had, who he lived with. I know he lived in that house there, and that's all I know.
Because there weren't many Spanish or Mexican families in Louisville.
No, there wasn't.
There was the Lorenzes
Yeah.
and the Rodriguez family, Danny
Gomez.
Rodriguez, the Gomez family.
Was there Garcias? I don't know.
Garcia.
The Garcias, yeah.
Rams.
Yeah, there were quite a few.
There were a few
actually.
Yeah.
more than I thought.
What about Kanab? Kanab,
Could not.
is that a nickname of someone?
Yeah, it was his real name.
She used to talk about what did he do?
You know, I don't really know if they worked in the mines or what they did. To tell you the truth.
He worked at Kolachi's.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But they lived up in Little in that little house where Alex and Netta lived. Then from there they moved to that house right.
That was up the street on Lincoln.
Yeah, up on Lincoln.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
And then there was a lanky. Was there a lanky?
Yeah, there was a lanky Domenico. That was my Aunt Rosie's brother, and he lived in Louisville. And he had 2 kids there, and he used to drive a coal truck. But I don't know if there was another lanky or not.
Yeah, there was another lanky. He was one of the characters.
I can't remember who that was.
Now, you also had a lot of cousins in Lafayette, but you had a lot in Louisville too, because
Yeah.
many of the Beranek women
Yeah.
married men
Yeah.
in Louisville, right?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So you had a lot of cousins there too.
Yeah. Right now, I figured up. I think there's all the Brawny kids. I think there's about 30 of us left, the grandkids, and I'm the oldest grandchild, and I'm 84 out of the Brawny family. I'm 84. I'm the old,
Well,
but they all call me Aunt Betty.
were you the first Ross grandchild too?
Oh no,
You're not the oldest?
Art's the oldest.
Oh, that's right.
Art, and then Joe, then me.
And their family name was not Ross. Originally, it was Arusi.
It was called Arusi.
Arussi.
Yeah,
And when citizenship papers, they were supposed to be Rossi, but it came through Ross.
Yeah, it came Ross.
Yeah.
See, now my grandpa Ross and Mary Kalachi, that was his niece. Mary Kalachi's niece was my granddad. My granddad. It was my dad's first cousin, and he had a brother, and lived in Louisville too. And he had four daughters. One was married to D'Agostino, one married to a Lasnik. And I don't do the
Betty, I'm real interested in the ethnic neighborhoods like Little Italy, and we know about.
We didn't
French.
have all our Italians in Little Italy. We did.
Right.
We had, like I say, we had the Naces, and we had the Harneys. And I can't. Isn't it funny? I can't think of that people's name.
We're going to do a tour with you of Little Italy.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
I think you'll remember.
I'm going to try to remember them names.
Yeah, but were there other neighborhoods besides Little Italy and Frenchtown that you can remember that were sort of like ethnic, or were those just the two?
Well, really, I don't know, because I lived there. Not everybody lived. I didn't know who was that. Who was it? But like I said, I didn't know where Kimbertown was. I didn't even know that till they mentioned that. Where was Kimbertown?
So you didn't really notice the ethnic differences because it wasn't just Italians that lived in Louisville.
No, it wasn't.
And
We had Frenchmen. We had.
it wasn't a big deal.
No, it wasn't.
Now, as we're finishing up with this part today, so kind of talked about the war. One thing we didn't talk about was, which I'm curious about, so getting into like either for you or for the town, like holidays like Christmas, if anything special went on. You know, I know, do you remember when the Christmas tree was on Main Street?
Yeah, I remember that. And then Mr. Henning used to always be the Santa Claus. And I think the Lions Club used to have it.
And did you get...
Oh, yeah, we got a sack with an orange and some candy in it.
And was that sometimes did you get other Christmas presents?
No, we never got any presents for the city, but we did get that.
Did you get presents from your mom and dad?
Yeah, what they could afford, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was that little sack from the city a big deal to you?
Oh, sure it was. We all looked forward to it because we got an orange and some candy, you know. And
So everybody went?
everybody went, all the kid line. It was cold, but we'd be standing out there in line.
Mm-hmm.
What about 4th of July? Was there any celebrations in town on the 4th of July? Anything big or just not?
No, not really, I don't think.
Okay.
Mostly they did it on Memorial Day. And then
What did you do on Memorial Day? What?
years ago it was the same thing. They used to have they always had a parade and everything, and then they'd go out to the cemeteries.
Do you ever remember walking out to the cemetery
No,
from the Legion Hall?
no,
It was just at the Legion Hall?
just at the Legion Hall. Yeah.
Now, did you ever go to dances and weddings there? I mean,
At the Legion Hall? Well, yeah, that's the only place anybody could go
that's
for
where they
years,
went.
up at the old Legion Hall.
And that's the one that's,
It's where the karate place is now.
is that across the street from the high school?
Yes.
From the
Yeah.
junior high? Middle
Yes.
school, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, it just tears me up when I go by there now when I see that school. I'm just so sentimental.
Yeah.
I couldn't go by it for a long time. Diane wouldn't drive me by there, no, because I can't look at it.
I
There's
still
so many memories was
Very
torn
sad.
down. It was so many memories torn down.
Did you remember any of the men who worked on that building?
My dad did.
Did he?
My dad did. It was WPA, and he worked on it.
Yes. I'll tell you something, Betty. I don't go by there either.
Yeah.
It's too sad.
Either.
I just can't. It just bothered me. Oh my gosh, there goes our school.
Our school. They never saved a.
Well, we had that class reunion, that big class reunion. Matter of fact, there was only two people. There was Isabel Hudson and me. I walked in there and that auditorium, it just made me sick. It was dirty, the drapes was hanging down, the stage was filthy, the seats, what have they done to this place? Why they even let it get this bad? It was awful.
Yes.
And then we walked through the gym, and oh dear, the balcony was gone. And, oh dear, what have they done to this school?
I have a question that I kind of want to ask before we finish up here. There's a gentleman in town that is doing a book on Louisville. It's a picture book. It's photos and that. And one of the questions that he asked me, and I'm going to start asking people, what is the glue that makes Louisville the best small town to live in? What when you were
Right now, I wouldn't. I don't know if it's a bit. There's so many new people. I wished he could go back to when it was a town.
But that's what I'm saying. What do you feel is what made Louisville what it is?
Well, for one thing, most of them we was all coal miners. You know, a lot of them, and we were all the same. They maybe, well, the only one that never had any money there was the Sells and maybe the Nesbitts. You know, that really, and the Fenolias had the post office. But nobody was really wealthy. Nobody was really had a lot of money. You know what I mean? We just.
Do you think any of the organizations were part of the glue of the?
Yes, they were. I mean, the American Legion was one of them. It really was the American Legion.
What about the fire department?
And the fire department too. And I don't know what else they always had the Lions Club over there too, I think.
How about the VFW?
No, they never did. They had one for a while over there, but it didn't last as long. Now, me, VFW over here,
That's a whole nother chapter.
That's another whole chapter.
VFW in Lafayette has always been very, very big.
Yeah, so
big
anyway.
in your life, too.
Matter of fact, Diane's a member.
We could do another 2 hours on her life over here.
Yeah.
Because,
Okay.
Well,
No, but I mean, you know what? Nobody. People they worked. I mean, people were working then, though. I mean, it wasn't like the depression. They worked. They all had different jobs. Like Beth Madonna worked down there at what was that big department store down on 16th Street for years?
Never Dry?
Not Never Dry.
Newsteaders.
Newsteaders. She worked there for years. Some of the girls worked at telephone company. They always worked. Everybody had a job of some kind. Of course, a lot of them was homemakers. A lot of women didn't work. They stayed home, took care of their kids.
So when you married Dad, when you left Louisville and came over here, was it very different?
Yes, it was. Of course, it wasn't because I knew a lot of people here. I knew a lot of people here, and I had relatives here.
Because I know one time you told me that you said I've lived here 60 years?
Yeah.
62 years. But you said your heart is still in Louisville.
It was. I don't care. You know, I said that they always razz me because I'm a pirate. You know, my friends do. I'm a pirate, and I don't care. I said there's just one little part here. It's still Louisville. It's still Louisville. You know, it always will be. I said to Diane that, you know, sometimes maybe I should have moved over here. No, I didn't really mean that. Because, you know, I got my family here, and but it's still when I go over there. That's why I can't go. I can't stand to look at that school.
You go home when you go to Louisville.
Well,
Yeah,
and part
I'm
of it
home.
was they had many opportunities to buy houses in Louisville, and because my dad was, again, that rivalry, and
Yeah,
he would have never, he would have been Louisville.
that rivalry was terrible.
So, but
Yeah.
so,
I don't know. But this has been real interesting, I'll tell you.
so go ahead, yeah.
Okay, well, we're about to run out of tape here, but what is the wisdom that you would hand down to your grandchildren and to other people, you know, younger people now?
Diane, you tell them what Daddy said to Lori. You know, my husband told my granddaughter one time, he said, Lori, you've got two obligations. First, your country, to you, and then your family. That's what he told my daughter. He said her first obligation was to her country.
He always said, country first, your family second, and then
yeah,
take care of yourself last.
take care of yourself. So
So is that what you're?
that's what I'd say. But like I say,
Very wise words.
yeah, but we're a very patriotic family, I'll tell you. Like I say, can you believe this? I cannot find any flag stickers anywhere. Nobody has them. My friend, he's got this cat. She wanted to order some. They don't make them anymore.
Guess what I bought at the Labor Day parade the other day? A poppy.
Yeah.
You don't see those very often anymore.
Yeah, we always give poppies on. Yeah, matter
So
of,
maybe another time we'll talk about what it was like moving over here and difference in your family too, because we didn't talk about your family or
no.
other kids or anything at all. So maybe we'll do that another
But
time.
growing up in Louisville was great. I mean, I think there was about 1,400 people there then.
Okay.
And I'm always thankful, too, that my kids over here were still able to live in a small town.
Okay.